When I got into ministry, I just transferred that energy into that, right? Into servant leadership, into looking out for, those who were oppressed. And so I gravitated toward, jobs and opportunities gave me a chance to do that. So I went to work at the NAACP national headquarters, and, with being on the national level, our hands are in a little bit of everything. And I was the assistant to the president and CEO at that time, Ben Jealous. And so, with the, Troy Davis death penalty cases and Trayvon Martin, and, I was there when these kinds of things arose. And so it's just always been in me to do, and always, in my spirit. So I volunteered with different campaigns and helped out. But in terms of being on staff for an actual campaign, that did not happen until I discovered Andrew Yang. And I literally discovered him in a sense that I opened up the newspaper one Sunday in 2018, and he had literally just filed, right? I opened up the New York Times to read, and there was this big, sort of introductory story called "The Robots Were Coming" article. The robots are coming. That got my attention, and it's introducing this young Asian gentleman who had just declared for the presidency, and talked about his platform. And mainly it was talking, of course, about the fact that so many jobs had been automated away in the Midwest, and that was a lot of the reason, behind why Donald Trump got elected, and that those reasons weren't being addressed. And a lot of it was monetary. Automation was going to be accelerating and taking jobs away, and people were falling through the cracks. They're feeling unheard, and we need to do something in response. So how about a universal basic income of $1,000 a month to put into people's hands as a lifeline until, they can figure out, what their next move is going to be. And I'm sitting here like, did he say, let's remember the least of these and those who are struggling, and give them something tangible, not just a mouthful of promises that, may or may not, come to fruition? And wow, is he talking about the Midwest? Because that makes me think about my grandparents who worked in the shoe factory and the atomic plant, who lost those good paying jobs due to automation or getting them shipped overseas. And man, $1,000 a month coming in for them back then would have made all the difference in the world, because at least they would have known we've got something. Not to live on, but at least we're not dealing with zero. And we have something that can meet our needs until we figure out our next step. And then he said, we need to do this. We need to start taking care of each other again and putting humanity first. And I'm like, he's preaching and don't know it. I'm like, he's talking about the stuff that I talk about on Sunday, just in a different way. I need to know who this guy. I want him. That was it. I was like, I'm this campaign, I don't care, because I need to be moved by a candidate. I need to connect to you. I don't,
me too.
He was one of the first ones, he was one of the first ones in. I didn't wait until, later on, Kamala got in, and Cory Booker, and some people like, you're not going to support the Black woman. You're not going to support the Black man and all that. Love them, think they're great. Kamala went to Howard, but that's not why I select candidates. That's not what moves me to select somebody. I need to be able to rest, because I need to be able to support you authentically. And this man is speaking to my soul. And so I'm going to help him. And so I literally, they had the campaign address, and I wrote an email and introduced myself and said, I'm in DC. If you're in New York, if you come to DC, I'd love to meet you and, help volunteer, set something up. And the campaign wrote back and said, yeah, of course we're going to be coming to DC. And then like 10 minutes later, Andrew wrote back. And I was like,
wow.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
you're like,
is that a candidate? Or is that, it's like Andrew at Gmail or something. I'm like,
right. Like, is that a staffer or?
Right. And he was like, no, Reverend Wendy, thank you so much. You get it. Would love to, meet and talk. I was like, oh, okay. So he really is different, right? And about 3 months later, he came down to DC and met with a group of us, like, we call ourselves, the early adopters, if you will, about 6 or 7 of us. And I started volunteering and traveling a little bit with the campaign. Then I would just go up and introduce him and like at rallies in Baltimore and things like that. But then later actually formally joined the staff. So that's my Yang story.
I love it. That is such a wonderful introduction to politics in general, and especially just like kind of accidentally falling into the Andrew Yang campaign.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That to me, is sort of the synchronicity of it all. That's the way I like to look at things. It's kind of like, yeah, I fell into it, but at the end of the day, when I look back and connect the dots, it's kind of like that was
it
the
was
direct
a straight line. Yeah.
Because you look back, oh, now it makes sense why I did this and that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So was it your experience in the Andrew Yang campaign that inspired you to then run for Congress now? Or is this something you'd been thinking about for a while? What was your inspiration behind that decision?
Good question. And yes, I would have to say ultimately it was my experience directly with the Andrew Yang campaign that solidified my decision. I've always entertained it or mused about it. And, you always have people, you should run for, you should be great. And I'm like, thank you, but that takes more than a notion. That's not something you just wake up one day. You know what?
There's some money involved.
I mean, even Andrew would say on the trail that he didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to run for president. He said, because I'm not insane. I'm not insane.
Yeah.
He was like, you know what this undertaking something like this means, and what it requires if you're going to do it. And, from that place of commitment and dedication. And it's not just something that you're doing to build your resume and all of that kind of stuff. So I said all that to say, over the years, the thought might have crossed my mind or people suggested, but I never seriously entertained it. But after having worked directly with the campaign and kind of being in there and seeing how the sausage is made, it made me a little bit more comfortable with the idea of it. But it really wasn't until this past summer when John Lewis was dying and C.T. Vivian died and all these civil rights, leaders who had made so much progress were dying. And we were still, being held hostage by an administration that was hostile to all of that progress at the time. And I was sitting here in my kitchen, and I was just kind of like, I cannot even physically get my mind around the possibility of 4 more years of this.
Nope.
Like, I know we won't make it as a country. I don't think I'll make it, because at that time we didn't know how the election was going to turn out.
We did not know.
And so I said, I really prayed, and I was, and I really got this sense that, God was kind of like, so are you going to tuck tail and run? You going to stand up and fight?
Amen.
Well, I'm a fighter. So
here we are.
So I decided I put it out there on social media, just kind of mused about it. So, with all these things happening, I have a right mind to run for Congress, and you expect a few people to say, oh, you can do it, Rev Wendy, go for it. Or whatever. I was not ready, for just the amount of response and support. It humbled me, when people were like, I'll help you. And so the response in and of itself made me think that, well, maybe this isn't just amusing. Maybe I need to think about this a little bit more. Like I put it out there, but this might be a possibility. And so ultimately I reached out, talked to a few folks, people that I know, and ultimately made the decision to run and put my hat in the ring. So here I am.
Thanks for checking out this clip from our show.
To watch more clips or full episodes, click on our profile below.
If you want to stay up to date on all of our new episodes and videos, click subscribe.
And if you have any ideas for future guests or topics that you would like to see us cover on the show,
leave us a message in the comments or connect with us on any of our social media channels at Funtime Program.
Or on our website at funtimeprogram.com.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.